Good morning, everybody. It's actually, I have to admit, my first time I'm at Slush. Our organization has been here several times, but I must say I'm impressed by the whole event and also by the entrepreneurial spirit that I see here. And especially such a large crowd showing up so early in the morning is the right signal, even with the tempting Helsinki nightlife. So, thanks for all being here. EIT Digital, I want to say a few words about the organization and then I will continue on the topic of today. So our organization is a pan-European innovation and education organization. We have locations in 9 countries in Europe and we also have presence in Silicon Valley through an office in San Francisco. We're heavily supported by the European Union, which gives us on an annual basis around 75 million euros, and that's then complemented with our partnership of 140 partners all over Europe to a total investment budget of around 300 million euros on an annual basis. So if you did not hear about us yet, it's probably because we work that hard that we forget to tell about it. So that's going to change. I'm going to tell you what we are doing in education, and especially in entrepreneurial education. Connecting the dots in innovation is very important. A colleague of mine pointed to a presentation yesterday here where startups in Europe tell us that Europe has great ecosystems to work in. However, the connection between those ecosystems is very, very thin. Our organization is exactly about that, connecting the dots. And please check out in our organization how we can help you as a startup to scale up, for example, your business in Europe through the presence that we have in all these countries. We have a booth here, go have a look. So let's get to education. We're about entrepreneurial education. And we work on transforming our education systems, and then we talk about higher education systems, that means universities, PhD level, but also professional education, into a more entrepreneurial mindset and more exploiting the new technologies that are available that have a disruptive impact on the way education takes place today. So actually things do not go that fast as you imagine. If you look back in history, there were actually only 4 real disruptions that happened. Before, we had lore. People told each other stories and passed on knowledge in that way. Then we invented the alphabet, which allowed for asynchronous communication. You write it today and somebody reads it maybe ages later. Then we got paper, which made it far more easy to distribute information. And then, of course, by getting the printing machines, we could speed up the proliferation of written information enormously. And today, we have the internet. And the internet gives us a means to proliferate information instantaneously. What we now see happening is the impact of digitization on our education system. And that's a combination of digitization and the internet, which of course is an integral part of this whole thing. So what's the perception of the average layman of a university? It's a thing like this. It's a building. It's been established a long time ago. It has about 20,000 students, and universities have huge endowments, especially when you go to the US. 37 billion of endowment, money in the bank, ready to invest in better education. It started all in Europe, of course, in Bologna, around 1300. Then we got the scientific journals that were used to share information. Then we had the Humboldt principle. Really, to have good universities, you have to combine education and research. That's the fundamental basis for the whole Humboldt University. And then we have the Ivy League universities in the US. There had been a war There were numerous GIs returning to the homeland, and the government understood that if you want to give these people a good future to fuel the economy, you have to educate them. And you have to make sure you have a university system that gives them the right skills to rebuild the nation after the war. So that's how traditionally universities act. But what do we see today? And let's look at an example, Coursera. It's a Stanford startup that is really very heavy into MOOCs. It was set up in 2012, so not 100 years history. It has 1.5 million learners. Incredible numbers. And it has in the bank only 100 million and not over 20 billion. That is the disruptive nature of the internet and digitization when it comes to education. Today we see the global landscape with 10,000 universities and only 10, let's say, established MOOC companies operating. Actually, most of them in the US. The future of online education is not something to come, it is something that is happening today. 25% of students in the US have taken a course online, but also graduated. That means they took a certificate, a proof of that course. 95% have followed the courses. And why do they do that? Well, of course, first thing is access. It's very easy access. It's price. A lot of courses are for free, and you only pay when you decide to get a certificate. And of course, you get access to the best teachers worldwide. So the quality of the material is extremely high. So what is EIT Digital doing here in this domain? We have a strategy to really make sure that our European university system can cope with these disruptive changes that are going on. And we do that through a strategy that we call blended education. And the blending has two elements. It is blending classroom physical education with online education. So to really have a combination of both. And the other element of blending that we have is that we educate so-called T-shaped students. T-shaped means that they have profound knowledge of information and communication technology. But T-shaped also means that they really understand what digitization means in terms of business impact, changing business models, changing delivery infrastructures, and you name it. We do that in a network of 30 top universities in Europe that are in the 9 countries where we are present. We do it in our co-location centers. One of them here in Helsinki, in Espoo, where we bring together students, startups, investors, SMEs, people from large companies, entrepreneurs, in a kind of melting pot where they influence each other and make sure they learn from each other in order to speed up innovation. And our education director always says, without education, there is no innovation. In Dutch, we have a saying, wat de boer niet kent, dat eet hij niet. If a farmer doesn't know the food, he will never eat it. So education is really essential to drive innovation. And of course, the third element of the blending is the online part. It is where we bring the online modules to the world, also to attract students into our education system that is physically located in our universities and our co-location centers that are very often in the proximity of the universities, as we are very close to Aalto here in Helsinki. You need the right blend. It's a myth that you can become really an expert by just going through online courses. You have to sit together. You have to bring people physically together to really be innovative, to brainstorm, to interact, because with all the advances we have made in information and communication technology, today, if you really want to have a very interactive brainstorm, an exchange of ideas, you still need to be physically together. Of course, you can do a lot of things offline. You can do a lot of presentation and preparation work offline. But in the end, you need to be together to really make sure that your ideas interact in a very intense manner. So that's why we take this specific approach where we have certain elements that strongly are based in our physical locations, and we have other preparation elements that you can do as a preparation offline or even afterwards to complement your knowledge. So where are we as an organization? We're actually focusing on two specific tracks. In the 3 schools that you saw in the previous picture, we have master education, a 2 years education program. We have doctoral training centers, a 4-year education program, and we have professional education school where we give permanent online education, but also very often weekend-based physical education in our centers. And this is where we are. If you look at our physical current deployment of the schools, it's mainly focusing on the physical part. And you see the numbers. We're at 600 students. We will have 1,000 students into our master school. We started this whole thing in 2012, yeah? So we're just on our way. And below, and next to it, you see the current professional courses we give in a physical mode. So we get professionals to our co-location centers, train them on state-of-the-art technology, but of course also on state-of-the-art impact that digitization has, very often based in their specific sector. And you see our ambitions for next year. So we are, as we speak, developing and piloting our online modules. For the master school, we do this together with Coursera, and we will bring that to the Coursera platform in the beginning of next year. And we aim in the pilot year next year to attract 50,000 students to our platform. Compare it to the 1,000 that we can handle physically. And here you see the enormous scale-up we get through this. And we collaborate there with Coursera, and the content we drive from Europe through KTH, which is integrating the input from our network. And we work together with Haas Business School in Berkeley, the Masters of Open Innovation. When it comes to professional education, we work very closely together with our colleagues from EIT Climate. That's another part of the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. It's a similar organization to us, but really focused just on climate change. And we're together through our organization, integrated via iMinds, a Belgian innovation and education organization. That's one of our partners. Drive this with the climate kick. And also there we have the ambition to roll out a pilot with 50,000 learners next year. So what you can see, that if you prepare it well, if you take the right platforms, if you take the right partners to get this going, in 1 year you can go from around 3,000 people that you have in your education system to 100,000 the year after. And that's the disruption our universities are facing. And that's where we as an organization work together with our universities in Europe to make sure that they integrate this disruption in a very constructive way into their education systems without being scared or defensive. I've got only 5 seconds left to say thank you. Thanks very much.